morning, everyone. It's 2018, and my dream has literally come true. After 9 years of school, 3 years of residency, 2 years of fellowship, I finally get the perfect job. I get to work in a native serving clinic, and I get to spend the rest of my time focused on the systems and the policies that impact Native health. I tell 9-year-old little Andy, who bravely professed that she wanted to be a doctor, "You did it, girl."
Yes, you did.
Though soon enough, the shimmering letters MD behind my name no longer sparkle. And reality sets in. And the reality is that 4 years into my job, I'm feeling alone, frustrated, and at times gaslit. Aside from already juggling with things like a medical legal partnership, co-leading a native diabetes study with Dr. Claire Soto, or mounting a community response to COVID, the real fire within me is sounding the alarms within our county system about our people, our Native people experiencing homelessness. Every meeting about Native homelessness blends together and feels frustratingly repetitive. Life goes on like this for a few years, and the work barely moves. Until one typical frenetic morning, I get a phone call from Claire Peaks, the executive director of the Stanton Foundation, and she's here to tell me whether or not I've received the Stanton Fellowship, which is a $100,000 grant, to allow me to explore a question that would impact the lives of Native people. My heart is racing and I am nervous, especially because I know that this work will change things for our community. Andrea, I'm calling to tell you that you got the Stanton Fellowship. Congratulations. Surprised, I hang up the phone and I immediately think to myself, oh crap, what have I gotten myself into? My name is Andrea Garcia, and I'm a citizen of the 3 affiliated tribes on my mom's side. I'm Mexican on my dad's side, and I'm a physician specialist at the LA County Department of Mental Health, where I get to work at the American Indian Counseling Center. I get to spend other times focused on the systems and policies that impact Native health and well-being. I spent the last 2 years as a Durfee Stanton Fellow, and today is a culmination of that journey, and my sense of accountability and reciprocity to you all, my community. My work in Native homelessness began 9 years ago. I was doing a study on how Natives in Los Angeles access their health care, and we came across some interesting findings. We found that 14% of our study participants reported being homelessness, and another 20% reported experiencing temporary homelessness. In fact, prior studies found that Native homelessness numbers in Los Angeles range from anywhere from 14 all the way to 34%. This is starkly different than the 1% statistic reported by the Greater Los Angeles Homeless Count. We objectively know that our relatives are undercounted and underreported. Thereby, we're effectively erased in the data, also known as a phenomenon called data genocide. Given that Los Angeles County is home to the largest population of American Indians and Alaska Natives in the entire United States, this is a vast injustice. Being able to characterize Native folks is only the baseline, but how are we going to get access to resources if we don't have that data? However, the data that we do have tells us that we are most likely to be unsheltered compared to any other population, and if we do go from unhoused to housed, we are less likely to be retained in that housing. My past 9 years of work in homelessness has included deep listening and even deeper advocacy. My work, along with that of amazing partners in this room today, has resulted in reports, publications, infographics, webinars, curricula development, and our collective persistency has resulted in the passage of a board motion, an internal county working group, the creation of a Native coordinator at our homeless services agency, a leadership seat at one of the tables, liberation of money for our community-based organizations, future housing units for Native people with severe mental illness and who are experiencing chronic homelessness. And still, with all of this work underway, it is not fast enough. Housing alone is not enough. We need culturally responsive housing. That is housing with culturally aligned design and whose services, treatment, and way of operating that centers Indigenous values and knowledge. This is just the minimum. Our community as a whole deserves a chance to heal and a chance to thrive through placemaking efforts much further upstream of homelessness. Before I started my Stanton journey, I felt that I had to fight just to validate that this is even a problem, and that the idea of creating culturally responsive housing was too much to ask for. I felt that true allies were few and far in between, and I saw how our systems can normalize and perpetuate trauma, even amongst the very human beings who work within them. So, the major question that I set out to solve with this fellowship was how can cities and counties forge meaningful relationships with Native communities, especially as it relates to houselessness. And over time, that question has evolved into how can we create a sense of home in LA where Native folks can begin to heal. Over the past couple of years, I've had the privilege of traveling to many cities, nationally and internationally, and I'm happy to share a few of the things that I learned. It's May 2024, and I just landed in Sydney, Australia. I'm here to visit Redfern, a suburb of Sydney and a historical hub for Aboriginal activism. I have only 6 months left in my fellowship, and I feel like I'm letting everyone down. I punish myself for not having cracked the code yet, despite having already visited Vienna, Austria, which is a mecca for those studying social housing. I'm disappointed because I learned that Vienna doesn't collect data on race and ethnicity, and has strict immigration policies, which is a huge issue for racial justice. Despite being let down by Vienna, I'm hopeful that I can learn more in Australia about their successes in housing Aboriginal folks. I arrived in downtown Sydney, and it feels like a cleaner, greener version of LA, with beautiful inlets of water, fresh, cool air, and some strange-looking birds. Unlike LA, however, I noticed that occasional businesses, every museum, and even the TV of my hotel room display land acknowledgements. Am I in the future? I finally arrived in the city of Redfern, and I love it, and I want that for us. Its public transit station very clearly incorporates Aboriginal art, as do the murals on the walls and the buildings. I see a mural with 3 Aboriginal children with playful smiles saying, "Be deadly." I see that deadly humor is a universal Indigenous trait. I see an Aboriginal medical service building, new affordable housing, and I come across a brand new community center for Aboriginal people in walk-in. It turns out today is a soft opening, and they're happy to show me around. I see 3 Aboriginal folks, Roger, Tracy, Kate, and they're welcoming and more than happy to accommodate my curiosity. Tracy and Kate work for the city of Redfern, as I surmise through their blue City of Redfern short sleeve polos, very government. They staff the center. Roger is not employed by the center, but I get the feeling he's a staple in the community because he presents as if he's an elder. He's friendly, chatty, and naturally volunteers to show me around. He has clearly lived through the history of Redfern as he talks me through the black and white photos on the wall, and he proudly regales of the decades-long relationship with the American Black Panther Party and how that influenced the Aboriginal Black Power movement. I'm feeling very energized by the Aboriginal and Black Power intersection. I wish we had an example like that within LA's Indigenous history. And I wish for a multi-ethnic intersection in our LA housing work right now. He talks about Redford's history, about its wins, its challenges, and its most recent battle with gentrification and displacement. I then asked him the big question, how do you feel about the new housing development? He looks at me and he asks, where are the Aboriginal people in that development? I'm surprised by his criticism of the 50-year-old Aboriginal organization who spearheaded the development. My rose-colored glasses fall off my face. Roger's passion and criticism to achieve more for his community is familiar. The juxtaposition of warmth, laughter, conflict, and disagreement makes me question, am I in Redford or am I in LA? Redford may not have met the mark in housing yet by Roger's standard, but they are so close. And I have empathy and grace for those trying to deliver housing justice on behalf of their community within a system of capitalism and white supremacy. I feel validation in the possibility that this can be achieved. I feel validation in the seemingly smaller things that mark Redford as an Aboriginal place. Its art, its nonprofits, its community center, and its people. Whether or not the housing hits the bullseye right now, this is still a place and a visible home for its Aboriginal residents. I'm energized by this. I want this for us. I feel an intergalactic web connect me to this part of the world, and it's profound. Just a short 3-hour plane ride away from Sydney, I arrive in beautiful green Aotearoa, also known as New Zealand, and I am so excited because I know they have it going on. New Zealand itself has a much more expansive definition of homelessness, including those who couch surf and those experiencing temporary homelessness. And separately, the more inclusive Maori definition includes the concept of spiritual homelessness and cultural disconnection. Not only are Indigenous people homeless once due to removal from our homelands, but we're twice over spiritually and culturally disconnected and homeless because our ways are inextricably tied to land. If you add on removal from family and friends for some folks, homelessness has a much more profound definition than simply being unhoused. Thus, it's vital that government housing policy incorporates Maori worldview in New Zealand as they have. I get to my first hotel, and the TV once again is a source of surprise. I'm flipping through the channels and discover Maori TV. There's full-on game shows in the Maori language and with children who are fluent in their language. I daydream about how amazing it would be to have my Hiratsa language as easily accessible and normalized. I turn to Maori news with political commentary that is fierce and on fire. I'm definitely pumped up, and I feel like I'm definitely in the future. I go explore. Maori language is present on public signage. Maori arts and culture is everywhere, not just in some special tucked away part of town or in a museum. And I visit the New Zealand Maori Arts and Crafts Institute, where a tourist asks a man what he's carving. The man replies, it's a face splitter. Why is it called that? Because it's a weapon we used to split heads in war. There's that deadly display of Indigenous humor again, and I love it. I visit some amazing Maori businesses and land bases, and I'm dreaming about what it would look like if we had those things here. Again, this place feels light years ahead. But the more I walk around, I begin to notice a hard truth. Unhoused Maori folks are just as visible as a representation of Maori culture. I see some manifestations of serious mental illness, and it guts me. Moreover, I feel sad and enraged that this is a global experience for Indigenous people. And while I knew this in my head, it's different to witness with my eyes and feel it in my heart. In 2023, 35,000 Maori people are severely housing deprived. Maori housing people are also overrepresented in the New Zealand prison system, with over 50% of the prison population identifying as Maori, despite making up only 16% of the general population. Maori women comprise around 60% of the female prison population. I can't imagine a world in which our sisters, our aunties, and our moms are incarcerated at that rate and what it would do to our families. And that's when I realized it's going to take generations of healing and structural remedies to heal generations of trauma and structural violence. There's no quick fix to this issue. It will take generations, and we need to start now. I'm sharing stories about Australia and New Zealand, but there are many other countries doing really progressive work when it comes to housing Indigenous people. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Canada and the ways in which they're innovating in housing their urban First Nations folks, and also leading the research. And there are many cities in our own backyard that have moved the needle too. It's now November 2024, and we just landed in Seattle. At this point, I'm starting to feel extremely hopeful and less alone. It's not just me taking in these valuable lessons, but now it's me and a group of LA-based Native providers. We've come to visit our Choose Seattle Club friends who have supported us since day one. They presented for our community and our systems partners, have answered so many calls, and have advocated loudly in many rooms like this. And that's also resulted in a significant amount of funding coming our way thanks to them. Their generosity and authenticity makes my cup overflow. Choose Seattle Club started as, and still is, a day shelter, but now has gone on to build nearly 500 units of housing for Native people. Because of the rapid development of housing within the past 5 years, they have boldly declared the goal of achieving functional zero homelessness for Native adults in another 5 years. It feels like they are decades ahead of us. With excitement, we pick up James and Damon, our gracious Choose Seattle Club tour guides, and begin our journey. James and Damon hop into our giant van, confidently driven by Whitney. As Whitney navigates us in and out of tight spaces throughout the city, we exclaim, "You can get the girl out of the res, but you can't get the res out of the girl." Our laughter is that familiar kind of empty belly laughter, with heads back, eyes closed, cheeks hurting. It already feels like home. We have a full day of touring the many beautiful sites that are serving their relatives. Relatives being the dignified word they choose to call the residents in their buildings. Each site contains thoughtful architecture and diverse murals of different tribes. They take us to their ceremonial grounds on some privately owned land, and we see their 2 sweat lodges, their beautiful TV, and the space that they use to feed their people after ceremony. They introduce us to their chief traditional officer, who leads a team of traditional mental wellness staff who utilize trauma-informed and cultural tools to support healing and wellness. Not only is the role of the chief traditional officer pretty dreamy, but she's also a woman. I'm so proud of our people, and I fall more and more head over heels every time I interact with this organization. As we soak in the who and how of every site, I catch on to something really subtle. It seems that Choose Seattle Club embodies and very much normalizes the importance of partnership and allies. This property is a partnership with the city, they would say. Or this building was acquired through rapid acquisition from the county, somebody else said. Or we're part of a multi-ethnic coalition of housing providers, and we show up for each other. How amazing is that? I'm in fangirl overdrive. It seems as if the team is equally blown away. We walk away with the sense that we can do this in LA, and we come back with renewed excitement. My spirit once again is warmed, and that fire is stoked despite the cold, rainy days in Seattle. It's now February 2025, and it's my last Stanton Fellowship Advisory Board meeting. Every quarter for 2 years, a group of 7 Native women leaders have agreed to support me on this journey, and we've cheaply named ourselves the Breakfast Club. I cherish these meetings because Native women supporting Native women can be magical and divine. Woo! It's also filled with raucous laughter, good food, and usually very healthy tears. We meet at 9:30 a.m. in a charming little cottage behind a restaurant in Elizabeth East, and we dive in. Tenja starts off the day by sharing that she has been accepted into a dual master's program with a full ride from USC. We cheered her on through proud tears, still the tears. During these 2 years, Danielle, has fully started her own consulting company and has found her joy in finally buying that ice cream truck she's always dreamt about. I find out over time that some of these women now have their own regular meetups. My plan is working. Today's question is, what did you expect coming into this advisory board journey? And what didn't you expect now that we've reached the end? One by one, the women go around and share what they expect and didn't expect. Things like vulnerability, not expecting to cry all the time, and allyship were named. And then it was my turn to answer the question. I say that I knew I would get some help figuring out my stand-in, and I knew I wanted this group of women to be connected to each other. And then I take a pause, because I realized in the moment what I didn't expect with these women was to find home. A home where we can feel that we have allies in each other. A home where we can laugh. A home where we can heal our collective wounds. And I look at these women, and I have the gratitude of knowing that the thing I was hoping to build for others, I also built for myself. And then Tensha ends our meeting with another powerful prayer. I'm so proud of the work that we've done as a community over the years, and I'm also so impatient for the change. So this is my call to action. Building culturally supportive housing is the absolute minimum. Not perpetuating data genocide is the absolute minimum. We need everyone in this room to help us build a home. Audience members, you're about to participate in listening sessions. I implore you to dig deeper and dream bigger about what LA can look like, feel like, sound like for future generations. What would it look like if we had spaces and places for us? How would our cultural and spiritual ways impact our health and well-being? The possibilities are endless. Partners in the sector. Our community has found the best practices. Our community has made introductions, authored the reports, provided endless feedback. It's time for you, lovingly, kindly, to reciprocate with action and resources. As LASA is reimagined or whatever's gonna happen, and La Casa grows, Native representation at these tables is a must. Centering conversations on equity is a must. Community members and community-based organizations. We can't afford to have the harms of the past continue to impede the joy of today and the future. We need to mend ourselves first as individuals, and then our relationships with each other in order to build a peaceful and healthy home. And we need to be working in partnership with our multi-ethnic relatives and our allies in this room today. We can all go further together. It's a hot summer day in 1992, and I'm 9 years old. My mom, my sister, and I are leaving the Southern California Indian Center powwow after a day of laughter and surely some powdered sugar left on my face from too much fried bread. At this point in my life, my family would hit the occasional powwow, and I clearly know that I'm Native, but I don't really know what this means. On this particular day after the powwow, we walked to the parking lot to meet my grandparents. My stomach sinks a little further and further. Before I know it, me and my sister hop into the camper in the back of my grandpa's white Ford truck, our little red suitcases next to us, and I'm waving goodbye to my mom through tears and the bravest fake smile I can muster. This is our first trip to North Dakota, and about to be the first time we meet our family in a place that my mom and my grandparents call home. After 2.5 days of road tripping, we arrive at Grandma Doris's house on the Fort Berthold Reservation. I meet my 12-year-old cousin Ricky for the first time, and she asks if she can take us to the lake. That sounds fun, I think. Little do I know, my sister and I jump into Grandma Doris's car with Ricky behind the wheel. Feet barely stretched to the pedals, but driving with the confidence of an adult. At this point, we're still getting to know each other in the car, but I already know that he's the coolest cousin I've ever met. I'm thrilled and terrified. We jump on a dirt road and then travel off the dirt road, approaching what looks like the edge of a cliff. Oh. She stops the car, we get off and see the lake below. I can't believe we get to do this. I feel so free and ironically safe. It's just us and the elements. We don't have to worry about anyone trying to cause us harm. We walk to the lake below and I enjoy my newfound freedom. The rest of the 2 weeks pass by quickly as we engage in an activity my grandpa calls coffee cooling. We make all the stops to visit relatives and the coffee flows, and usually followed by sweets or a meal. I have some sips of coffee myself, but by the look on my face, they ultimately offer me some pop instead. I'm having fun learning the different words of the plains. It's pop, not soda. Supper, not dinner. Either way, we are taken care of and welcomed. I learned that everyone is basically another grandparent or an auntie or an uncle in Indian way. And that my cousins are pretty cool for including my sister and I. Something about the air smells slightly sweet. The meadowlarks sing songs I've never heard before. And I appreciate how vastly different the land is here. How there's actual land and rolling prairies as far as the eye can see, rather than concrete and buildings. We eventually drive out of Fort Berthold in the camper of my grandpa's white Ford truck back to LA. I'm feeling whole and peaceful. We finally make it back to LA and my mom picks us up. I am so excited to tell her all about the fun things we did and the family we met. She smiles back at me and says, "It sounds like you enjoyed being home."